Hey, Aileen.
Hi, Corey. How are you?
I'm really good. Yourself?
Pretty good. It's Friday.
Yes,
Although
thank God it's Friday.
Friday and Saturday don't make much difference between each other these days, do they?
No, everything blends into one blur, as it were. But thank you so much for joining me as part of this series where we're interviewing the CEOs of organisations operating during COVID-19. Now, you are the CEO of Kids First. And for those who are not familiar with Kids First's work, would you be able to just give a brief description of what you do?
Sure. So we've been around for 134 years, which is a fair while. Yeah. So we were originally child protection, which most people don't realise. And then we handed that back to the state government in the 1980s.
Okay.
And since that time, we've been predominantly a child and family service organisation. So we provide early year centres, so kindergartens, and then we provide sort of family coaching, parenting support for families with children under 5. We are also part of the Orange Door, the new Orange Doors, the family violence, child wellbeing triage systems for the state. And we also provide family services. We've also for a very long time provided sexual abuse counselling to children and young people. And also treatment services for those children who have problematic sexual behaviours. And we also have family violence services, so for women and children who are recovering from family violence, but also we work with dads who have been perpetrators of family violence with a focus on how that's affecting the relationship with their children. So that's sort of us in a nutshell.
Yeah, wow, that's a big nutshell. There's a lot of really critical, important services that you're providing there. That's great to hear. So how's it been for you during COVID-19, like as a CEO of an organisation like this?
Well, you know, it's been really interesting times, I reckon, because we're a people-based organisation, like all of us are in the sector. And so you really rely on that person-to-person contact, that face-to-face contact, not only with the clients that we work with, but with your staff. And so even though, we're in this sort of virtual world, it's quite different, I think, because you can't go into a room and read a room, the feeling or the mood of a room. You're relying on looking at people's faces when you're talking to them. So I think that's been quite interesting, both from just trying to feel the mood of where staff are at, but also for staff in working with clients to get a sense of what's happening for them as well.
Okay.
So I think that's been a real challenge. I think the other thing is it's exhausting being online. I think, and everybody's saying that, like, we're just over it. We're getting over it. So now I do lots of phone calls rather than lots of Microsoft Teams and Zooms.
That's really interesting. I've found myself doing a similar thing. I think it's because when you're on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, like everyone's looking at your face and you're looking at people's faces. At least in a meeting, you can look down at your shoes. You're like, I've got to get them polished. You got a bit of a break, but you're like, out of respect, you're like, I got to keep looking at people's faces.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that, I'm getting a little bit sick of wearing probably, similar clothes.
Yeah.
As someone said, I don't know what it's going to be like when I get out of my tracky decks.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of that as well.
Okay.
But I think the other thing is just the juggling. So ensuring that communication's going out to staff, and that's been like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, with restrictions changing and then going back again.
Okay.
People hearing different things and making sure we've got the right information to give people, and doing some questions and answers for people. Ensuring our staff wellbeing's been really critical in this time, and having a business continuity plan and making sure that's up to date. Some of the other things is that risk planning with clients. I know that's been tricky because you're not actually seeing clients face to face. And then it's our kindergartens. So our kindergartens have been really our incredible champions because they've worked throughout the whole lockdown, and making sure they're okay has been really critical for us. And then trying to finalise the strategic plan through this process. It's been an interesting juggle and endeavour.
Yeah.
And then having online board meetings, but we've got some new board members. So they've all met each other virtually and haven't seen the organisation. So that's been tricky as well.
It sounds
and
very
also, yeah, that's been tricky, but it's been good actually. And then keeping contact with our volunteers. So we've got about 100 volunteers, and some are elderly because we've got op shops. And just trying to touch base with them and making sure that they're travelling okay as well, and trying to still keep them engaged with us so that we don't lose them.
Yeah, of course.
And then the other thing is setting up our offices for COVID-19. So all the social distancing, you know, getting plastic cutlery in, getting all the PPE in, you know, just all that sort of stuff has been actually interesting. The offices look very different because we were preparing to come back after stage 3. So we did all the offices, and now we're back.
We don't know.
We don't know. But we have got some staff who are working from the office because they've found it very hard now with children being home to have a private space to work in. So there are some staff working from the offices and seeing face-to-face contact with clients, but very minimal.
Well,
so it's been like this. It's been like juggling balls.
Sure.
And interesting times.
We do live in interesting times indeed. What surprised you during this period? What's kind of taken you really by surprise?
I was thinking about that, you know, and I was thinking what I think has been, we've had 2 staff members who are pregnant, and they've just had their babies. It's their first babies. And through the whole time, they have just remained so calm and so focused. And I've been surprised, because if it was me, I would have been pretty nervous, particularly first time baba.
Yeah.
But they were exceptional during that time. So, and we all said that, you know, we all said how amazing they were. They just rode it through, and then, you know, gave birth to their little bubbers. So that was a surprise for us in a way.
That's very lovely.
It is lovely, yeah. And then I think the other surprise is that clients have remained engaged with us through some tricky times, and have been really, you know, just really thankful that we've kept connected with them and done some, you know, interesting ways of connecting with them and those sorts of things. And I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I'm just really proud of our staff and how they've been able to adapt and still be resilient in that process.
That's tremendous. I'm interested to pick up on what you were saying there about staying connected to clients. You know, you've got this great workforce. They've demonstrated this resilience. You know, they've proven their mettle, which must be very comforting and for them and for yourself. I'm interested in terms of when we go back to the post-coronavirus world, back to normality, how, you know, this period is going to feed into that. Do you think that will change how you work with clients?
Absolutely. And that's what many of us have been talking about across the sector. So one thing will be much more flexible working arrangements for staff. And we've done some pulse check surveys as we've gone along with our staff. And the majority of the feedback is that they have enjoyed working from home, but would rather have a balance. So that's one thing. I think the other thing, though, is the use of technology with clients, so that there's a choice for how clients might want to work with us into the future. So it could be a combination of face-to-face contact, a catch-up via Zoom, a catch-up via, you know, Microsoft Teams, those sorts of things. I think how we work with clients in that way will change it. And I think for some clients, that's great, because sometimes they have to pack a whole family in a car to come to a visit for one of their children. Yeah. You know, or they have to catch public transport, and it's, you know, it just takes, you know, it's a juggle to do that. So absolutely. I think that combination is really going to change the way that we work. And I also think it will change the hours that we work in.
Okay.
a lot of some of the men in our fathers program work.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to do things virtually is much better than them having to rush from work to get to one of the group programs we run. And we've started doing that online now, and it's working quite well.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah, I think that combination will stay with us going forward.
Yeah, great to hear. So, you've got a lot going on, I think it's fair to say. You've got a lot of balls in the air, a lot of knives in the air. There's a lot of things in the air. How are you taking care of both yourself and your staff?
So me, lots of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cooking, a lot of listening to podcasts.
Sure.
Which I'm finding good, and walking. So for our staff, look, we've got an amazing creative team of staff. And so we've done a whole variety of things. Like I said, we've done our pulse check surveys. How are they going? Are there things that we could be doing differently? What are their suggestions around that? We've actually got a DJ on staff. And she...
sorry, hang on. Sorry, can you say that again?
A DJ on staff. And I'll give her a plug.
Of course, that is... wow, talk about innovation and adaptation. You have a DJ on staff. Is this because of the coronavirus? No, it precedes the coronavirus. Okay.
Yeah.
Aileen Ashford doing some interesting things. Tell me about that.
DJ Damage is her name.
Okay,
That's her stage name, cool. DJ Damage. And she holds Friday virtual dance sessions for staff.
Yeah.
So that's been lots of fun.
That's very, very funny and very cool.
Yeah, and we've played coffee roulette. So you get randomly matched with someone in the organisation that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then you come online and you share a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and get to know each other a bit more. And that's been lots of positive feedback about that.
Yeah, they all sound like really just fantastic things. Yeah.
We've got a staff resource hub where we've put a whole lot of stuff in how do you deal and cope with COVID that staff can go and access, so mainly written information. Mm-hmm. And we sent out little packs to staff with a card that they didn't know about, so they got it in the mail with a little card that thanked them for being so terrific through this time. And they all got, I hope you can see this, they all got a bunch of tea bags.
Yes, Twinnings, yeah.
And a little coaster.
Yeah.
That says,
that's
"You're
lovely.
terrific."
That's very.
So that was a nice little surprise.
Yeah.
And then we've just started Wellbeing Wizard, which is lock down the low and free the fun.
Okay.
And that is having some Wellness Wednesdays. So this next week is a meditation session and yoga. Mm-hmm. And wellbeing competitions. So you get prizes with the wellbeing competition, and you earn points for things like, show us a photo of a cake that you've made during the week, a story that made you smile today, etc.
Sure. And
we've got a big surprise coming soon with a very well-known TV personality doing something pretty fun with all our staff.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, well, we won't spill the beans on that. Might talk about that after this interview. But no, that's all so wonderfully positive. It's fantastic to hear. Yeah. So that's pretty much me up to speed, and I think our viewers up to speed on the fantastic work you and your organisation are doing during this time. I love to end these interviews with just a very basic question, bit of lightness about, whether a CEO has heard or seen anything particularly funny that they can recall during this coronavirus pandemic. Is there anything that stands out for you, Aileen?
Well, technology is an amazing thing, isn't it? So we had our executive meeting and our corporate services director came in upside down. And so we were all like this, talking to her to get her upright, and she couldn't get herself upright. It was the funniest thing, I can tell you. That was very amusing.
Yeah.
And another one was I was on online doing a meeting with one person,
Mm-hmm.
and this look of horror came on their face and sort of surprise looking at me, and I said, "There's a man on your fence. Is he supposed to be there?" And it was our plumber.
Okay, it was just a plumber hanging out on the fence.
But she did give me a fright because I was thinking, "Who's there?" And I turned
Yeah,
around,
you know, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been watching a lot of Netflix horror movies, so you know, my mind would have gone to a very dark place. But oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's great. Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, gosh, I love the person just coming in upside down and everybody trying to accommodate them. Oh,
And she kept saying, "I can't get up. I can't get up. I don't know how to get up." It was very funny.
oh, wonderful. Well, you know, this has been wonderful, Aileen. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and being so generous.
Yeah.
I hope that this pandemic is over very, very soon. But from everything you've shared today, I know that you and your organisation are going to be doing great. You know, regardless, I think.
Yep.
So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Corey, and take care. And let's see if we can get through it all together, hey?
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks.
Aileen.
Bye.